Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and in this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night. And as you know, the conflict between the President of Ukraine Zelensky and the General Staff and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine Zaluzhny continues. And you know that this is very interesting and very weird because, as I understand, and if you ask my opinion, I don't think that there is any conflict at all. You know that Zelensky during the autumn, during the Rammstein, during the meetings in Germany that took place in September, promised the Western investors that by the end of this year, by the end of November, the Ukrainians would capture 3 more cities. And we know that Zelensky was talking about Tokmak, maybe he was talking about Artyomovsk, Bakhmut, and maybe Svatova. And now we are almost the middle part of November, and the Ukrainians still haven't managed not just to capture 3 cities, they haven't managed to capture even a few square meters in direction of possible 3 cities. And we know the Zelensky is the president, and he can't he must stand on his words. And currently we see that the second person in military Ukraine, Zaluzhny, told us that there are no chances to continue offensive operation, and I wouldn't be surprised that that speech, that text was prepared by Zelensky office. Zelensky doesn't want to be blamed, he doesn't want to be like in charge of the situation, and he wants Zaluzhny to make in charge and to make this as his own personal failure, and to make him responsible for the failures on the combat line. Because what are we talking about? Are we talking about the end of this war by all these conflicts between the president and the commander-in-chief? No, the war is not going to be ended. Because neither Zelensky, neither Zaluzhny, and neither any other Ukrainian politicians is saying that they're going to start negotiations with Russia and to finish this war. Because even if the Ukrainians at some point of the special operation are going to get ready to start negotiation process, who told you that the Russians are ready to start negotiations? Currently the Russians feel that they can capture more, they can advance more, and they can penetrate the Ukrainians completely, their defense belt, and to get as much as possible. And now the Ukrainians understand that since this day, since let's say the 5th of November till the end of the special military operation, there are going to be no more offensive operation from the Ukrainian side. There are going to be no more attacks, there are going to be no more storming of trenches, there are going to be no more Rabotina, Vremivka tactical bridge at Bakhmut, there are going to be no more Klishchevka, and so on. They're going to be just a very deep defense. The Ukrainians from now on till the end of the special military operation are going to be just in defense state. And the Ukrainians are ready for negotiations, but as I told you, the Russians are not ready for any negotiation process. And now the Ukrainians understand that they need to get prepared before this, another second tour of negotiations, and to be prepared they need to deal as much as possible damage for the Russians, but not in offensive. Just in defense, and nobody knows how many territories and how many cities the Ukrainians will lose before this moment will come, when the Russians understand that they can't do more mobilization, that they can't take more people, more civilians, and to mobilize them for war, and so on. And as I understand, this is not going to happen very soon. Because we know that the Russians have endless endless manpower in comparison with the Ukrainians, and of course the most important, the Russians have their own production. Now let's move to the situation on the ground. During the previous night we haven't received almost anything from Crimea, from Kherson direction, so there are very heavy clashes for now, but without any progress on the ground. Very interesting updates are coming from Zaporozhye area, to be more precise from the fields between Rabotina and Verbova. I have added a flag icon, and today the 82nd Air Mobile Brigade of Air Assault Brigade of Ukrainian forces published the video how they were bombing and attacking the Russian forces inside the trenches that used to be under Ukrainian control a few days ago. So as I understand, as a result of counter-offensive operation that took place during the previous week, or maybe even this weekend, the Russians managed to return control and to establish full control over these trenches. We will update this map before the next video. We will move this territory in red color, and we will change the gray zone between the Ukrainian and the Russian positions. Furthermore, as we can see, according to the icons, the Russians increased their pressure against the Ukrainian positions on the base, let's say, of Rabotina, a salient of Rabotina, of Bradley Square. They're bombing and attacking the Ukrainian forces, and this is not the first video from this territory. So we can say that this is something like artillery preparation before possible upcoming offensive operation, and the main purpose of this attack, of this offensive operation, is to cut as much as possible and to short the Ukrainian positions, Ukrainian logistic possibilities, and basically to create a salient or even a cauldron for the Ukrainians who are currently located in the fields between Rabotino and Rabotilo as well, and Verbova. If we increase the numbers of days since the beginning of October, we're going to see that the Russians are pretty focused in this square, very pretty focused. Now we're moving further to Donetsk direction, and we got also some updates from Avdiivka, some geolocations, very important geolocations. On this video we can see how the Russians took a decision to destroy the Leopard with Lancet strike. This is the old Leopard. On this video we can see a very important thing. As you can see, the Russians were using the Lancet of new generation, and to tell the truth, I thought that the Russians Lancet, new generation Lancet, was attacking the tanks based on the let's say hot spot. So the Lancet had equipment, new generation Lancet has equipment that can see the warm tanks, the engines, and based on this information they can self-navigate themselves. But if you take a look at this video, this Leopard was destroyed a few days ago, and obviously this Leopard is cold, or at least during that attack was cold. And I wonder how the Russians machine managed to discover and to recognize Leopard, damage abandoned Leopard among these ruins, among these battlefields, and to destroy it. So as I understand, the Russians managed to improve Lancet very high on the next level, and currently, as I understand, there are no analogues in the world like these type of drones. Very interesting updates are coming from the northern part of the railways between Stepovo and Krasnogorovka. On this video we can see how the Russian forces, how the Ukrainian FPV drones were bombing and attacking the Russian positions along the railways. So this is the second geolocated confirmation that as a result of clashes during the previous days, the Russians managed to establish control over these trenches, over this stronghold. If you remember, yesterday we discussed that the Russian tank was trying to clear and demine this territory, and he was damaged, that tank, by the Ukrainian FPV drone. So this territory is on the Russians, and of course we understand that the next step of the Russians, there are either to cross the railways in this area, like something like this, and the second movement either is to move further along the railways in direction of the village by the name of Acheretine. Now we are moving to Bakhmut direction. We got also a lot of interesting updates. As we discussed in the previous videos, the Ukrainians were forced to redeploy very important forces from this direction, like 54th, 57th Brigade to the north in direction of Kupiansk, and that's created some gap and holes in Ukrainian defense, and the Russians took a decision to use this situation, and they were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian infantry and Ukrainian soldiers along the railways between Kurdyumovka and Andreevka. So we know that the Ukrainians managed to establish some foothold on the Russian side, and now the Russians are trying to do everything they can to do their best to force the Ukrainians to step back. Furthermore, some positions the Russians have already managed to cross the railways. On this video we can see how the Russian reconnaissance team tried to cross the railways on the north of Andreevka. That means that Ukrainians don't have like a full normal defense. There are gaps and holes that the Russians can use, and on this video we see the Russian soldiers managed to cross this area and to create an ambush for the Ukrainian sabotage group. And as a result of short fight between Russian sabotage group and the Ukrainian sabotage group, the Ukrainians were defeated and most of the group was destroyed. And as you can see, that took place on the north of Andreevka, that maybe probably the Russians have plans to return control over this village and to force the Ukrainians to step back. So there is a pressure from the south and there is a pressure from the north. In the vicinity of Klishchiivka, the Russians published the video how they managed to discover and destroy 2 Ukrainian tanks with Krasnopol hit. So the situation develops very bad for the Ukrainians without any changes to change the situation in Ukrainian favor. Very interesting updates are coming from the northern front line from Kupiansk direction. The Ukrainian sources also published the video of Russian attack on these positions. This event took place not yesterday, not the day before yesterday. The Russians managed to capture these fortifications, these 3 lines, a few days ago, but just today we got the first geolocations, video geolocations that confirmed Russian attack. On this video we see a group of Russian tanks with armored vehicles, with personal carriers, with a significant number of infantry, infantry. They were trying to capture these tree lines. They managed to land the infantry. They managed to return like armored vehicles back safe, and the Russian infantry cleared and captured the trenches. So as we can see now, we have a lot of geolocations that proves the Russian positions along this line. And as you can see, the distance between Ivanovka and Russian positions are too short, and we expect just maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week, the Russian attempts to attack the village, and so that they will capture this area, obviously. Few more things, few more words about the situation in Crimea. I would like to remind you that during the previous night, the Ukrainians attacked Crimea with a combination of attacks. The Ukrainians were using Scalp, the Ukrainians were using Storm Shadow missiles, up to 9 missiles. The Ukrainians were using Neptune missiles and different types of missiles from Odessa. The Russians managed to shut down everything, and furthermore, the Russians, just one missile probably the Russians haven't managed to shut down, but this missile fell down in the Black Sea in the water. So no damage, nothing happened, nothing serious. The parts of one missile fell down on some industrial area, and something was damaged probably. But the Russians, as a result of that operation, launched a very fast counter-offensive, counter-attack against the Ukrainian airport, international airport in Dnipro, in this area. And the sources are saying that that operation was planned, and the Russians tracked the situation. The Ukrainians used the NASAMS air defense system in this area under support of MPQ-64 Sentinel air radar, but everything was destroyed as a result of Iskander fire, as a result of drone fire. So the Ukrainians, this is according to the source we have, this is the second confirmation of destroyed NASAMS system on the territory of Ukraine. And also, of course, the Russians managed to destroy a few aircrafts, and as I understand today, we're going to receive more updates from the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation. And that's it for this short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes to on my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.